athletes that fly right past them, let that get to your head too much. There's a lot in this event, 3 different components, and you really have to attack the one that you're the strongest at.
Stand by.
Event 8, the Madison Triplus is underway. 500-meter swim to open things up here.
This is going to be the most nerve-wracking part for any of the athletes, whether you're a good swimmer or a bad swimmer. You see how much white water there is between all the different athletes. That's legs and feet on top of heads, on top of other legs. If you get in the way and you're a decent swimmer, you're going to get run over. And it's not a nice thing when you do a mass swim here, but you got to protect yourself and at least expect to have a lot of water in your mouth as you're moving.
We will do our best to identify the athletes as we get shots of them. Of course, they are all wearing the same colored swim cap, and it is hard to make out numbers when they are in the water. We can tell you that Tia Toomey is wearing the red. She will be the easiest to pick out, and right now she is sitting back in second place with a couple other athletes.
And the worst thing is they're lined up by their positioning on the leaderboard, so that's really tough if you are a good swimmer and you can't get out because these other athletes are in front of you.
There are quite a few women in this field, though, who were high-level swimmers either in college or growing up.
And those are the athletes that we do expect to see out on top. It'll just be a matter of if they can get out there. Cara Saunders is one of the athletes we always see do very well in the water. She comes into today in 5th place, so a win in this event would be huge for her. Amanda Barnhart is another one, the rookie last night that we saw take first in the speed clean and jerk ladder. She is Division I collegiate swimmer, so a lot of hours under the water there for her. She'll do well here in this portion, but for her it'll be when she gets to the paddleboard how she can adapt and how she can do on that apparatus.
Tia Toomey is your overall leader, and she is staying towards the front. She is in 3rd place right now. We got a shot of the leader. It looked like that was Amanda Barnhart, and that would make sense. Former Division I swimmer at Cleveland State. Freestyle. She swam for Wadsworth High School as well. State qualifier as a sophomore and a senior, so she has quite the pedigree when it comes to being in the water.
And look at the difference in her stroke compared to everyone else. The head is down, water level's right at the forehead. That keeps her bottom up. Nice and easy roll. You don't see her using, her hands aren't coming up real high, so she's not using a whole lot of shoulder there. And then when you do see her pop her head up, since she's in the lead, she doesn't have anyone to follow. So she's looking to try to keep that line, make her way to that buoy as much as she can. If you compare that to the other athletes way in the back, a lot of breaststroking, a lot of heads bobbing up and down. That's a lot of wasted energy, and honestly, they're just trying to breathe because they're nervous.
Well, remember also not just the nerves, but it is day 3 of competition, so they're swimming fatigue. That's a lot different if you're not the most confident swimmer to swim when you're fresh, day 1 of competition versus day 3. So there's some of that going on, shoulder fatigue and legs. I mean, all of that are a factor, especially that is day 3.
People who might be watching this for the first time might not know a whole lot about CrossFit and say to themselves, look, I thought you guys just did stuff in the gym with barbells and pull-up bars and things like that. Why is this a good test for these athletes?
It's a great test because get them out of the gym, get them in water. Swimming is an amazing sport, and you know, a lot of times it's like, who's the fittest on earth? And you can take Michael Phelps' name, and can we do what the best in the world do in the water? Might not look like him. Some of the athletes look pretty good, but we should be able, if we're the fittest on earth, be put in any situation and do well and be good at every area. And so that's why it's a great test, because we don't want to have any weaknesses or any holes in our fitness game.
Tia Toomey is on the left of your screen. She is in the red swim cap. She currently sits in 3rd place, and we believe that is Amanda Barnhart on the right side of your screen who is in the lead, but we'll know more once they get out of the water and move to the paddle boards. What are the keys to this event?
Really, the keys to this event are going to be, you have to push where you're confident. Where you're the most confident, you have to push there. If you've never been on the paddleboard, but you are a strong swimmer, that's where you want to make up your ground. That's where you want to get ahead. Then stay composed in your weakness. Don't try to be a hero. It's a long enough distance. It's just the long enough distance that you can't back off, and you can't just kind of go easy, but you can't sprint it either because it's too long that it'll wreck you. So you got to stay composed and just maintain your composure and breathe.
Beautiful long strokes. Now, one of the things that both these ladies in the front need to be able to do, now if you're in second, you're trailing that lead person, so ideally that lead swimmer is going to be able to pop her head up just like you saw there, and that's how she should be able to spot that next upcoming buoy. If you have to stop, and go into a breaststroke, then you're just showing that you don't have that confidence in the water to do that, or you don't have any kind of water polo background or just open water swimming background.
And as a swimmer, you know that I'm not a swimmer, so that's the kind of stuff that those little tips make it so much better, even mentally, knowing what you're doing, rather than stopping, getting your head up, looking around. So that's a lot of wasted time for the athletes that are not good at those things and don't practice open water swimming versus just doing their laps at the pool and staying in their lanes.
Well, it looks really good. She looks really good now. I mean, about every 5 or 6 strokes or so that she pops her head up right there, sight it, keep herself online, because the last thing you want to do is see where you're going and then get off track another 10 meters and have to swim anything extra.
We checked in with Mike Arsenault at the beginning of the event. Let's check with him again as he is out on the water there in Lake Monona.
Thanks, Sean. Keeping my eye on Tia Claire Toomey, and this is the perfect start for her on the swim portion of this event. The women really started to spread out less than halfway to the first buoy, so a strong swimmer like Tia, she wasn't expecting or wasn't aiming to be near the top after this portion, but she's in third place. No one's around her, and I talked about managing her exertion level. Yesterday, I actually caught her napping at the start of the day on the mats in the warm-up area. Contrast that with how she was acting at the clean speed and jerk ladder when she would just hit her lifts, super intense, and just stomp off, waiting for the next time to hit the floor and to lift some more weight. And she said that's, as a veteran, this is a strategy that she employs. You can't be redlining at 100% throughout the weekend. There's too many events and it's just too difficult. So she picks her spots. So look for her very comfortable as we come out of the swim, start to make a move on the top 2 women as we get to the paddle board, and then potentially continue to push the pace as we hit the run for the third portion of this event.
Thank you, Mike. You just saw the overall standings, and Tia Toomey has a 58-point lead on Laura Horvath, and Annie Thorisdottir currently sits in that third and final podium spot. She's trying to hold off Katrin Davidsdottir, who sits in 4th. Cara Saunders is 5th, and then Sarah Sigmundsdottir is in 6th. Those are the usual suspects, and one rookie in the top 6 in the overall standings through 7 events. The athletes do know that there are a total of 4 events today. They just don't know one of them. That will be announced later on today. And that is Amanda Barnhart, who's getting ready to come out of the water. She is number 40. Barnhart has a little bit of momentum, won the speed, clean, and jerk ladder, and then another top 10 finish last night in the Fibonacci when she took 9th. Let's go back down to Mike Arsenault.
Bill, I have a question for you. I'm watching the chase back, and there's a number of women who are alternating between a front crawl and a breaststroke. Is that due to fatigue on the swim, or is that a goal to potentially save a little shoulder energy as we head toward the paddle?
I honestly believe that that's a little bit more of lack of confidence in the water, that you can tell that they've had a little bit of training, maybe a little bit of technique work, but they don't fully embrace it and trust it. So they're swimming as much as they can, but then they have to try to catch that breath, see where they're going, just to kind of keep that confidence with that breaststroke.
Amanda Barnhart is done with her 500-meter swim, and she will be the first to the paddle boards, and that is Christy Aramo behind her. Barnhart and Aramo, 1 and 2, and Tia Toomey was all by herself in 3rd.
Aramo last year, who took 2nd in the run, swim, run event, right behind Tia Toomey. So this is where I'm anxious to see what she does on this paddleboard, because we know the last part of the event with that run will be no problem for her.
Barnhart into the water just ahead of Christy Aramo. Aramo in 11th place overall. Barnhart in 12th. Now here's Tia Toomey, your overall leader. It is first come, first serve on those paddle boards. They are not assigned a specific paddle board. Grab anyone they want, then get to work on that 1,000-meter paddle. So it's Aramo and Barnhart there in the middle of your screen. That's the battle for the lead, and Tia Toomey all by herself in 3rd place. There's more women now making it back to the shore here to grab their paddle boards for the second part of the Madison Triplus, the 8th event here at the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games. And now Chrissy Aramo and Amanda Barnhart are dead even on that paddle.
So far, both women are laying down on the board. They're not up on their knees like Tia Toomey. Look behind. Tia Toomey is just behind the 2. Barnhart's on your left. Aramo's on your right. And Tia Toomey is able to use a lot more of her hips and get more pull through the water. You know, even though their paddles are moving, it's similar to a rower. You can move, but you're not necessarily being efficient in getting the most out of the drive and most out of that pull. So if you can be efficient and be up on your knees like Tia Toomey and get that pull through the water and get more, you can go a little faster.
The majority of the field is still on that 500-meter swim, but now there are about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 women who have their paddle boards. Christy Aramo has overtaken Amanda Barnhart for the lead, and now Tia Toomey is threatening to overtake Amanda Barnhart as well and move into second place in this event.
It's just so much faster to be able to use those big muscle groups, but you have to be confident to do it. So Barnhart and Aramo are using a lot of arms and shoulder. That's all they have. That's all that they're working with there. Aramo's shaking it out right now.
Honestly, if you're going to lay down and go prone, you need to have more of a swimming stroke, back and forth, back and forth. That two-handed stroke, that's just be safe for when you're on your knees like what Toomey's doing.
And Tia Toomey has moved into second place behind Christy Aramo. A 40-minute time cap in this event as we approach the 11-minute mark, and this is the second part, the 1,000-meter paddle. After this, it's a 2,000-meter run, and they will finish inside the North Park at the Alliant Energy Center.
Back when they did this event in 2015, this was a 2-mile paddle. So for the ladies that did it then, they're feeling a lot better about this distance. Big crew now coming into the water.
Carrie Pierce is there. That is Brooke Wells. Maddie Sturt, number 58, getting on her paddleboard. Now the majority of the field is on the paddle. These are your leaders. Christy Aramo in front of Tia Toomey. Amanda Barnhart is in third. Some stragglers behind them, but the majority of the field is well behind the pace being set by your leaders. And if you remember last year in the opening event, Run, Swim, Run, these are the two women who fought for valuable points at the finish line when it came down to that final sprint. And here we are again, Christy Aramo and Tia Toomey battling for the lead in event number 8, the Madison Triplus.
One thing you have to note here, the way that Tia, as you can see, she's up there on her knees. What she's doing here is she's using her lats, not her shoulders. She just used her shoulders in the swim. The other benefit in this position is that she's allowed to breathe. So her chest, she doesn't have any weight on her chest at all. If you lay down prone, that's okay, but you have to realize that you are literally pressing your lung cavity the whole time. So that's stress on your breath. And just like what Tia did, that was great to make that adjustment to go down to her belly and then up to her knees. And I'm just going to have to say this. If you're an Aussie, I mean, you do things in the water. You spend time in the water, so she looks extremely comfortable.
They always do well at these events, and now Tia Toomey has moved past Christy Aramo for the lead on the back half of this 1,000-meter paddle. Toomey, your overall leader, 580 total points, leads Laurel Horvath by 58. Laurel Horvath, if she wants to keep Toomey within striking distance, needs to work her way towards the front here and score as many points as possible, or Tia Toomey is going to have a stranglehold on the top of the overall leaderboard. Let's go down to Mike Arsenault, who is on the water.
2 feet wide, and right here is where we could have some issues, because as we turn around this buoy to do the final home stretch, you might have a couple athletes starting to bump into each other as they try and get the inside lane. You saw Tia push it a little bit on that last straightaway to get to the turn first, and now she has smooth sailing as we head back toward the dock, where she will soon begin the run portion of this event.
Thank you, Mike. Tia Toomey leads Christy Aramo, and now, as the two of them are pretty even, transitions to the run are going to be huge.
They do have their the designated spot for their shoes and for whatever they need. And last year they both did a quick transition. There was some confusion about which direction to go. So as long as they have clean transitions, I expect it to be a sprint for that final 2,000 meters of a run.
Toomey and Aramo, your leaders. Amanda Barnhart, who led after the swim, has fallen way back in the third, and she is just making the final turn around that yellow buoy. As all the paddle boards very spread out here except for those two.
And just like in other swim events where you really see the leader take away from the pack and really tear away, these two have nobody in sight at all. Christy Aramo, who is in that 11th place position, would love to see another event win. She was the one who won the 30 muscle-ups on day one and was really at the top of the leaderboard for quite some time there, day one and going into day two.
Christy Aramo is managing to hang pretty close to Tia Toomey and looks like she might be closing the gap slightly.
The thing that concerns me is, though, the fatigue and the toll it's taking on her shoulders and her body for what she has left today and then for the unknowns of tomorrow.
Toomey has had just one finish outside the top 10 this competition, 14th overall, which coincidentally was the lowest she finished last year when she won the 2017 Reebok CrossFit Games. Pack developing behind the leaders, well behind the leaders, as Toomey and Aramo are turning this into just a two-athlete race.
But this is what I expected. It was going to be a race between the athletes. If you're the swimmers, if you're the strongest, and then that most likely is our second pack of athletes with good swimming backgrounds. So we could see some really good foot races here at the end of this event.
Christy Aramo looking for her second event win of the competition. She took the 30 muscle-ups for time and just content right now to sit right behind Tia Toomey as the two of them head to shore, and they will get to work on that final 2,000-meter run. Last year it came down to a sprint and run, swim, run, and it's looking like that could be the case again today.
They will not need to run their paddle boards out of the water. There will be judges there that will help take those boards out for them. So once they get to the designated point, they can just hop right off and run to their transition point.
17 minutes gone by, 40-minute time cap in this event. Tia Toomey, the overall leader, with a 58-point lead over Laura Horvath coming into this event. Now Toomey is off.
I stand corrected. They do need to bring the paddle boards out of the water. And that will be the transition point where they'll hand them off.
So Toomey will now move to her changing spot where she will be able to put on her shoes. And Chrissy Aramo is right behind her. And now the race really starts. Toomey is off on the run first, makes a very quick and smooth transition there, and Christy Aramo is right behind her.
This is a nice little repeat. So, anytime there's a race and you have another athlete that pushes you to be your best, when you're training, that's the woman that you're thinking of. That's the athlete that you have in the back of your head. So I just wonder how many runs during their training they were both thinking of each other, and here they get another opportunity to battle.
4 more paddle boards, and their athletes approaching the finish of that 1,000-meter paddle.
Looks like China Cho there to the far right, no surprise there with her swim background.
The leaders are on the left, and that is Kenzie Riley getting out
Riley
in third place right now. Another collegiate swimmer, as is China Cho. Kenzie Riley is in third place. Tia Toomey and Christy Aramo on the bottom left are fighting for the lead. Cara Saunders has that orange paddleboard. She's out of the water, as is Amanda Barnhart. And Toomey and Aramo are even on the first part of this 2,000-meter run, and they will come back into the North Park here at the Alliant Energy Center. And there's about a good 60-yard sprint to the finish line, and that's what this race may come down to, is more athletes emerge from the water on that 1,000-meter paddle. There's Laura Horvath, who sits in second place. She has the blue paddleboard. Bethany Shadburn is next to her.
For Horvath, that's not a bad position for her, especially because the women ahead of her, some of them are not the strongest runners, so she may be able to pick some of those ladies off. She said earlier that, the paddleboard wasn't going to be her strongest event, but her coach is Michelle Tunder, who took second in the pier paddle back in 2015, so I'm sure she got the best tips she possibly could have for that portion, but now she's going to move.
Laura Horvath has her shoes on, and she is on the run. But Toomey and Aramo have separated themselves early, and they have stayed way out front. That's Meredith Root. She's done with her 1,000-meter paddle.
Man, they're being so nice to those boards. I would expect them to grab the tip and just drag it. It's not my board. I got a race to run here. They're being really nice.
This is the race for the lead. Tia Toomey is on the left. Chrissy Aramo is on the right. So it's deja vu all over again. Last year, run, swim, run. These were the two women who fought for the lead. And remember, Tia Toomey won in a sprint, and that was the difference, it turns out, for Tia Toomey at the end of the competition that allowed her to win the title of fittest woman on earth. Catherine Davids-Daughter just left your screen on the right. She just got out of the water as well. And there's Kristen Holta. Paige Semenza just dropped off her board as well. And now here's Annie Thorisdottir. So this is good news for Kristen Horvath, who sits in second place. Annie Thorisdottir is only 6 points back of her for second place. So Horvath looks like she may be able to put some distance between herself and Annie Thorisdottir as far as second overall is concerned. But right now, no one's catching Tia Toomey in the overall standings.
And I want to see what the game is going to be played between those two women as they make their way up to the front. They're literally shoulder to shoulder. So you're kind of, if you're in a run race like that, you're waiting to see, all right, who's going to make the jump? Who's going to try to rabbit out? Or are we holding back to try to have, prepare for that sprint? I almost want Tia just to play the game and just fall back just a touch to see what Aramo does. See if she takes it as a sign of confidence or if she sees the game.
They're so used to being in this position with each other that I think at that point you know what they do. So I think that she would read that and know that she's doing that. But you have to really just be inside and really know yourself at this point and know how you feel, because it is a different event. And I'm wondering if Aramo is a little more tired and her shoulders not able to relax as much because she was using so much more of the shoulders and probably fatigued herself there. Does that make a factor here?
Well, I think with the shoulders, you just kind of get kind of tight. That's one thing. But doing the kneel paddle, paddling on your knees, the Tia Claire was doing, that you do feel that in your hamstrings and your hips and your hamstrings and your low butt. So I don't know if that's affecting her on the run. Doesn't look like she is. I just want to see a little bit more dice, especially from Aramo. She needs to do well here. Tia Claire just needs to do her thing. So there's really no pressure on her. She's out in the front. So first or second, those are two great scores. I want to see Aramo make something happen.
Toomey about a step ahead of Chrissy Aramo, and these are two women with very diverse running backgrounds. Tia Toomey originally started CrossFit to help her with her 400-meter hurdle time. Chrissy Aramo, more of a distance background. She ran the Boston Marathon in 2010 in 3 hours, 10 minutes, 39 seconds, so she has no problem running long distances. The battle for first is in the bottom left. The battle for third is in the upper right. It's Mackenzie Riley and China Cho. Mackenzie Riley out front of China Cho. Your top four: Tia Toomey, Chrissy Aramo, Mackenzie Riley, China Cho, Cara Saunders, Amanda Barnhart, and Sarah Sigmundsdottir. Laura Horvath right now sits in 8th place. That was getting out of the water.
A little different than last year. There was a lot of rain last year, so these ladies are running a nice sunny day.
And that's their destination on the left of your screen. The North Park here at the Alliant Energy Center. And they're getting closer to that, and Tia Toomey has opened up a lead on Christy Aramo. Toomey glancing over her right shoulder to see where Aramo is. Toomey looking for her second event win of the competition. She took the CrossFit total with a total of 875 pounds, and now creeping closer to the finish line, and Toomey way out in front. And her 58-point lead in the overall standings is going to get even bigger. Doesn't look like there will be a sprint to the finish here in 2018 as Tia Toomey is on the field here at the North Park. Christy Aramo behind her. I don't think she's going to catch her. The final stretch for Tia Toomey. $100 points for the defending fittest woman on earth, and Christy Aramo will take second.
For Tia Toomey, the worst finish she had was the marathon row, which was 14th, so not a bad finish at all. This is the second longest event we've seen, and she takes those 100 points, so great for her. That's a great start to this third day, a really important day of competition.
Same race as last year and the same result as Tia Toomey edges out Christy Aramo, and Toomey with her second event win. She also won the CrossFit total, and now the battle for third. And China Cho is ahead of Mackenzie Riley. Cho just coming out from behind that tree and will make the right turn to get closer to the North Park here.
And everybody now here in between Tia Toomey, Laura Horvath, Annie Thorzar, these are all precious points for those women, which opens up the door a little bit for Katrin David's daughter, Cara Saunders, Sarah Sigmund's daughter. Those three sit right outside podium position.
China Cho, the former San Jose State swimmer, going to lock up third place in this event as she is all by herself. Mackenzie Riley is behind her.
This is Cho's 6th consecutive CrossFit Games. Her best finish was in 2015 when we had that pier paddle where she took 6th place.
China Cho into the North Park, and one final stretch to the finish line, and event 8 will be done for her. China Cho is in, and she will take third place in the Madison Triplus. And now here comes Mackenzie Riley. Cara Saunders is also in the stadium, as is Amanda Barnhart. So Riley's across the finish line. Amanda Barnhart will finish. And now Cara Saunders.
But this could be a sprint right here.
And now a sprint as Laura Horvath turns on the jets and gets herself across the finish line. So that's good news for Horvath as she picks up some valuable points as she looks to hang on to second place overall in the standings. Sarah Sigmund's daughter is in. So now more athletes closing out event number 8.
So a lot of those ladies were the ones we expected to see, but great to see Sarah Sigmund's daughter and Horvath there near the top 10.
Here's Tanil Burline. Katrin David's daughter now making the turn.
And smart move, checking over her shoulder to see how close Katrin was.
Katrin is in, and now Camila Blanc-Bazinet making her way to the finish line. Meredith Root behind Camila Blanc-Bazinet. Kristen Holta making the turn for home. Cassidy Lance McWhirter behind her. And Lance McWhirter trying to catch Kristen Holta. And that was close. I think Holta edges her out. Just barely.
That was smart move there by Lance McWhirter. Take every point you can.
Maddie Sturt out of Australia, closing out event number 8. Annie Thorisdottir and Carrie Pierce. Thorisdottir in front. Pierce doesn't look like she's going to catch her, so Thorisdottir is in, as is Carrie Pierce. Less than 10 to go before we hit the time cap as Brooke Wells makes her way across the finish line. Here's Lauren Fisher. Ed Gilfadottir and Margot Alvarez, and this one has the potential to turn into a foot race to the finish. Gilfadottir has the inside track, and now they open it up. The sprint to the finish, Alvarez and Gilfadottir. And it's Margot Alvarez just ahead of Gilfadottir. Whitney Gallin is in.
So I love the test for this distance. It does make it nice for these ladies to be able to catch each other, make a little push there. They're not so fatigued in the run that they can't open it up there at the end.
Chloe Gobb and David came across, and here is Alessandra Pacelli. That is Camilla Salmonson-Hellman, the individual rookie. Eight minutes before we hit the 40-minute time cap. Jen Smith now making her way into the North Park. And Danny Horan. Just to recap the top 5, Tia Toomey, followed by Chrissy Aramo, China Cho, Mackenzie Riley, and Amanda Barnhart takes 5th. Here comes Jen Smith.
Jen Smith had a nice day yesterday with 2 of her best finishes in the battleground and speed clean and jerk ladder, taking 13th in each one of those events.
Smith is in, and now she is followed by Danny Horan. So it looks like the majority of the field has finished. And here comes Becca Voigt in her 10th individual appearance here at the CrossFit Games. While we have some time here, let's talk again about why this is such a good test for people who may not be used to seeing CrossFit athletes compete outside of the gym.
It's love that these athletes get to be in the water. They get to test their skills in every element, not just on land, not just where they're comfortable, but for a lot of these women doing this on the 3rd day of competition, also not doing it when historically we've been a little more predictable about the swim, about the water. Any water event that we've done has been first day of competition, kind of get it out of the way. It's just showing that there is importance. There's a lot of importance in being able to swim at any portion in competition. So bringing it to a day that they weren't maybe expecting, and with different elements, bringing back a paddleboard and swimming, adding the run, just kind of leaves the door open that we can be tested in any area, and we can put that swim whenever Dave Castro chooses to.
Paige Semenza making the turn as she gets closer to the finish line of the North Park. Brista Mayfield is also out there as well. And usually we have the swim events on a Wednesday, we've had it on a Thursday, but this is the latest in competition that we've had, and that certainly does throw a monkey wrench into things a little bit too. as these athletes are pretty fatigued, having gone through 7 events.
That's what I'm anxious to hear, how the difference versus doing the first day competition. How do they feel? How did they feel in the water? You know, a lot of these athletes, they train, they're swimming throughout the week, they're swimming in their training, but how often are they doing it in competition when they're fatigued? So it's a much different element when you have that adrenaline and you're going at competition speed versus just training speed.
Paige Semenza is in. Amanda Krenz is on the field, and she is with your overall leader and event winner, Tia Toomey.
Tia, take me into the battle that was taking place. You and Christy were neck and neck on the paddleboard and for the majority of the run. So what's going through your mind?
I guess I was just trying to focus on myself, to be honest. But it's always great to get in a battle with Christy and push to the very end.
Some familiar territory for you, battling with her in particular. What about your technique on the paddleboard? We saw you up on your knees, down on your stomach. What was your plan in doing that and using both those moves?
Just getting down on my stomach, going around the buoys, and then getting on my knees just to be a little bit more efficient in the water. But, I mean, Christy got on her belly and she was not far behind me, so I don't think it really mattered.
Tia, you're the fittest woman on earth. In 2017, you have the games experience. What have you learned through that experience that's helping you this year?
A lot. And, you know, I can't really just say all this because there's a huge list that I learned from last year. But, you know, I'm just really enjoying it and really embracing the crowd.
Thanks, Tia.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Tia Toomey, the winner of event number 8, and your overall leader now through 8 events with 300 points still available today on the 3rd day of competition. So we will close things out on Sunday, but a lot to be decided still here on day number 3 of individual competition at the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games. That is Brenda Castro, the first woman from Mexico to represent her country here in the individual competition, qualifying out of the Latin America regional. As we now have 3 minutes to go before we hit the 40-minute time cap, and Brenda Castro is going to finish this event well inside of that. Steph Chung right behind her. Castro and Chung are across. Let's take a look back at the start here, and it was Amanda Barnhart out early, but then things changed significantly when they got to the paddleboards.
Barnhart was the fastest, strongest on the swim to start. She was the first one out of the water. And then it was Aramo who led the paddle, but she was on using that prone technique on the paddleboard. She held just an early lead. Tia Claire Toomey was the only one of these top 3 ladies to be up on her knees and use that technique, which proved to be the fastest as she picked off Barnhart and then Aramo. Tia and Aramo found themselves in that little race there at the end. They took off together, but as they approached the stadium, that's where Tia Claire opened it up and took the win for this event here on Saturday.
Tia Toomey put a good amount of distance between herself and Christy Aramo at the finish, and Tia Toomey comes across the finish line with 100 points. Your top 5 finishers here in event number 8, Tia Toomey, Christy Aramo, and China Cho, Mackenzie Riley, and Amanda Barnhart. The Tia Toomey came into this event with a 58-point lead over Laura Horvath in the overall standings. That will increase. And Laura Horvath, meanwhile, got in ahead of Annie Thorisdottir, so Horvath